Good morning and welcome once again to Daybreak Africa from our studio in the States, the sunshine state of the nation. It's a beautiful morning over here, and my name still remains Ikhonede Joshua.
And I am Afolashayo Hamzat. Welcome to the studio today. Welcome to the show Daybreak Africa on KAFTAN television. Joshua, how are you doing today?
I'm fine. Today I'll be fine. I've said
Joshua is sure today.
Today I'm
He's
sure I'll be
fine.
All right, welcome back to the show. If you just joined us, it's still Daybreak Africa, and yes, it's time to go straight to our discussion for today. One of the most trending stories out there is the fact that the federal government are actually working on plans to ensure that there is an electricity tariff hike as proposed by the Minister of Power in the person of Mayowa. And one of the reasons why he made this statement was because the federal government are footing currently heavy expenses as regards the power sector. To a very large extent, the federal government owes even the Gencos a very huge amount of money in the terms of 5 trillion naira, and they are looking for means to pay back those particular debts. And one of the methods they are making use of to pay back the debt is even, paying some part, borrowing money to pay some part of the debt, and even using promissory notes to actually pay the debts and all that. And he came out bitter a bit, complained of the fact that Nigerians are not actually seeing the harsh realities of what the federal government are footing when it comes to subsidizing power for the citizens of the nation. And to that effect, he's talking about the fact that the federal government needs to take off the subsidies on power and make Nigerians pay according to what the actual value of the power we receive is actually talking about. And one of the things that Nigerians are looking at this particular period is the fuel subsidy removal is still there. We're still battling with huge inflations and all that. If this becomes a thing, definitely the inflation is going to go up and all that. But then we are still going to look at this topic holistically. To discuss with us from our career is a broadcast journalist, public speaker in the same vein, and a public affairs analyst in the person of Alaba Adeyemi. Welcome to the show, sir.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's very nice joining you guys again. And good morning, Nigerians.
Good morning. Good morning to you as well. So let's delve down to the topic. I'm very sure you familiarized yourself with the fact that the federal government is looking at increasing electricity tariff. And what was your take on this? Looking at the fact that we are still having huge inflations we are battling with in the country as we speak. Is it a right thing to do to actually increase the electricity tariff?
A lot of Nigerians are wallowing in abject poverty. So we will also discuss why electricity is necessary. Electricity is not just the driver of industrialization. It's also a basic necessity of a modern man. For a modern man to live the average modern life, one of the basic necessities after food, clothing, and shelter is electricity. You need electricity for lighting, for charging your phone, for your personal entertainment, to run your blenders, to run the basic things that you need to use at home, to even pump the water that you drink. Since government itself has failed, practically every government in Nigeria, I doubt if there's any state government still providing pipe-borne water for its people anymore.
That's a thing of the past.
So now people have to build their own water you are your own water corporation now, and for you to even pump your water, you will need electricity. So it has become a basic necessity. Another side of the argument is the fact that the distribution companies in Nigeria are not upgrading their facility enough. For example, if you live in a new area today, it is you and the landlords that would have to buy wire, buy pole,
which is kind of it's supposed not to be the situation.
Sometimes you want me to contribute to buy transformer, or a politician would have to donate that transformer to that community. So in the real sense of it, the man who is going to be supplying you the power supply does not provide the facility. It is you who provides the facility
for him.
But after providing the facility becomes the property of the distribution company. So there are many issues around this matter. If everything was in its right place, the increment in the charge for power supply needs to be increased. But everything is not in its right place.
Okay.
The government is not doing enough. Nigerians are poor, and the distribution companies are hardly providing anything beyond carrying around ladder at the end of the month and cutting people's power supply.
I'm sorry to cut you short. Part of what you mentioned is actually giving me a kind of thought, and I'm like, let me push the question to you. Are you trying to say the likes of transformers, the likes of wires, and probably all those prepaid meters and all, is it supposed to be provided by the companies to people for free?
Yes. Now, when you go to a motor park to board a vehicle going to Lagos, you don't provide anything aside paying, and the person is the one who buys the tire, who fixes his vehicle, who does everything to make it convenient between Ondo and Lagos. But in this instance now, it is like you going to the garage and the driver is telling you that the tire is leaking, you would have to fix it. So bring some money, let's fix it. Or you guys gather money, go and fix the tire so that we can move. Oh, okay, the oil is down. Okay, tell every passenger, male passenger, all of you, provide money, let us buy new oil so that we can move from point A to point B. That is what the distribution companies in Nigeria is doing currently. That's what they are all doing, and it is criminal.
Whose fault is it? Whose fault is it?
Well, there's a regulatory body that is supposed to regulate the generation and supply of power in Nigeria, and they are not doing enough, and they are an agency of government, so it is the government. It is the government's fault. It is government that has failed to protect the consumers, because the average Nigerian is basically a consumer. But the consumer protection agencies are not protecting the consumers of electricity. If I need power supply in my house, now I would have to buy wire, buy pole. But as soon as I buy the wire, buy the pole, the whole community gathers to buy transformer. The transformer and the wire suddenly becomes the property of the distribution company. And they are not paying, they can come and cut the wire and take it to their office. How?
My wire that I bought with my money.
What definition do we have for stealing? What other definition do you have for stealing?
Okay, there has been a whole lot of speculations concerning this electricity of a thing.
Let's take the example.
Okay.
Now, for example, when you buy SIM card from any of the telecommunication company, and you are out of airtime, do they come to confiscate your SIM card?
No,
they don't come to confiscate your SIM card. They leave your SIM card with you, but they find a way to disconnect you from enjoying it. Today, if you buy solar lamps, all these solar lamps, those companies, if you are not paying up to date, they have a way of disconnecting it from their office.
True.
Without having to come to your house to pack the thing away, except when you are not defaulted for several weeks. So what am I saying? Currently, Nigerians cannot survive an unsubsidized power supply. The attempt to remove subsidy totally from power will cause chaos in the country. So I do not advise the government to toe that line.
About the fact that the likes of poles, the likes of wires should be provided to the people who wants to use it for free. Now that we are the one who is paying for poles, for wires and all, do you think the electricity bill should be off us? So far we are the one paying for poles and wire, or they give it to us for free and we pay for what we are using, or so far we are the one paying, we don't pay anything whatsoever?
I think we need to explain this to Nigerians.
Okay.
That under condition, under normal circumstances, you are not supposed to even pay for the meter in your house. The meter is supposed to be free. You are just supposed to build your house, apply for electricity supply to be extended to your house. They would bring the wire, bring the meter, put it in your house. And the way through which you pay them back is through the payments for the electricity that you enjoy. The same way that I don't need to buy a car for somebody in Benin garage. That is the same way I am not supposed to buy wire, buy pole, and buy meter. But today, you people will pay for meter for months and they will not even get the meter supplied to them. That is the situation where we have found ourselves today. It's a terrible situation for Nigerians. Now, the fact that the government is saying that it has to remove subsidy from power supply so that everybody can have power, it shows that the people who are advising the president, the people who are in government, are not thinking outside the box. The average Nigerian cannot pay. The current 70,000 naira minimum wage, I don't think is more than is not even up to $50.
Very true.
It's up to $50. So the average Nigerian is poorly paid, and there is no need to burden him with such things. However, we must also thank the current government for doing something. As soon as the president came in, he signed into law a particular bill that would make it possible for different individuals to generate power supply and supply to a limited number of persons around their community.
But many are not taking advantage of that.
That is what we expect, that individuals who are interested in that area should have picked it up. Then we are also now power supply is no longer on the exclusive list. It's now on the concurrent list. State governments, local governments,
they can actually do it.
Investors can invest in that industry. That is now that our states across Nigeria are now getting windfall, are now getting 3 times their former federal allocation. I think rather than organizing jamborees and dancing around, I think this is the time they should invest in power. This is the time. And today now, virtually every political zone in Nigeria already has an intervention agency. Those agencies too should invest in power, so that because I do not expect that the current structure that we have will provide sufficient power supply for the people. There's a need for us to do what we call energy mix. Energy mix is that those who can generate power using solar should step in and do it. Those who can start thermal stations that can generate maybe 1, 2, 3, 10 megawatts of electricity should step in. Those who can generate for a village should step in. That's how we can do it for now. Because currently, we are not enjoying power supply in the country. And it's one of the reasons that we are not growing. You cannot develop industrially in modern age without sufficient power supply and an iron industry.
But then let me ask this actually. My problem is the fact that because it's becoming the way when he was speaking, I began to just think through things, because when Bayo Adelabu, the Minister for Power, was speaking, he was speaking as if the people were totally at the mercy of the government and all that when it comes to the area of power. But looking at all this, I think the people are even the ones more disadvantaged to a very large extent. Now, are you saying we need to fix up structurally first, in the sense that the place of people taking bills for the Gencos is illegal? In the first instance, I don't even want to get to understand why the federal government are claiming they are owing Gencos almost 5 trillion naira based on things, and the Gencos are also claiming that people owes them a lot of money, whereas the people are even doing more for the Gencos at this particular time. Do you think that we need to really look at the operations of the Gencos before even giving out any money that we owe them? Or what's your take on this particular structural issue with the power sector?
Let me tell you for a fact, the Gencos are pseudo-criminal organizations. And what do they do? What exactly do they do? You see, you would notice that many houses do not still have prepaid meters.
Yes.
Yeah, true.
A whole lot.
The fact that many people cannot get prepaid meters is a deliberate effort by those Gencos. Especially, I mean those distribution companies.
Yeah.
Not generating companies now. You know, we have transmission companies, generating companies, and distribution companies. What they are actually doing is the fact that they know that with the kind of epileptic power that they supply to many of our people, that if all our people are properly metered, that they would not be making the kind of crazy profit that they make. So they ensure that a large proportion of our people, of our common people, do not have a proper metering system. That is why they bring them escalated bill. That is why you will not have power supply for weeks. And at the end of the day, they will bring huge, humongous bill for you. And they will insist that you should pay. They would ask you to pay a part and be connected. For example, if you bring 20,000 and you decide to pay, okay, we still have 7,000. They will say, go and pay. But they will continue to add that debt to your bill. Let me shock you. Sometimes ago, I think it's around 2020 or 2021. There was this period that I was living in a house. We got to a point because my neighbor was not forthcoming with the pay, and we could not agree about how to share the pay. So one day they came in and they said they would cut the light. I said, let them do so. Like I told them that I used to ask somebody I know, if you want to cut him off the power supply, he will simply tell you that you banner share, that you don't need electricity to stay alive. So say, okay, cut it. So they cut it. I think they removed that power supply, I think around June. July, August, September, November. So I think on the 1st of December, we decided that we are going to reconnect. Having paid some amount of money, we reconnect. But do you know that they kept the bill for all the months that we didn't have power supply?
And you didn't use the electricity.
And they added it up to the bill. They added everything. They said, I said, okay, our areas was not this amount before. How come our areas have jumped now? They said it's for the other month. So I figured out that they now have a bill. I found that they had a bill hidden in their office for July, August, September, October, and November. About 4 months that we did not have power supply at all. About 4 months that they have even removed the wire and taken it to their office. This is a kind of criminal behavior that has sustained these things. Now, how come the federal government is owing them that kind of amount? Now, the agreement is that the federal government will subsidize power supply. Now, those subsidies, actually, a large proportion of them are from power supply that our people do not enjoy at all, that are arrears from estimated bills. So that is why I say that these distribution companies are criminal organizations. I dare them, are criminal organizations. If you walk through our environment, your community today, especially in the inner cities, where our people are relatively poor, they will bring them. We can bring you a bill of 30,000 for 1 month. You pay 5,000. They limit the ad. In fact, they will have a bill for the month you did not use at all. And specifically now, I'm talking about the electricity distribution company. They gave us bill for months that we didn't have power supply in the house at all, and they said
to 6 months
must pay. So this kind of criminal addition and subtraction is what has led to that humongous 5 trillion naira that the federal government is now currently owing. And what the federal government should have done is to regulate the activities of those persons. While we were young, in the late 80s and in the early 90s, I remember vividly that there used to be meter readers.
Yeah,
if
meter
you have
readers.
a postpaid meter in your house, they would come, people specially trained to calculate how much you have spent in 1 month. Those persons will come to you, do the calculation, and it will reflect on your next bill. I think that is the way it is done. But now what we have are criminals who will keep the prepaid meters in their office, tell you that to go back and go and come back, while the meter is gathering dust in their office, so as to give you bills for power supply that you will not enjoy. So, like you asked me the other time, whose fault is it? It is the government's fault. It is the fault of the regulatory agencies who have failed to regulate how these persons behave. Who have, although it has been alleged that actually those companies are actually owned by colonies of persons in government. That I cannot substantiate. What I can substantiate is that these distribution companies are ripping off the common man. I have that evidence, and I am saying that the government has failed in properly regulating them. Now, the government is looking for a shortcut that will harm the common man, but we will also help them and stop them from paying the subsidies. The subsidy will not be that humongous if we have regulated them very well. If they have been forced to collect money for power supplied, not for
power supplied.
That was assumed. Imaginary power that was never supplied. That is my position.
Okay. I think we should
well, we have to just go on a break actually. Just take a short break. Okay. We'll be going for GoStart, and immediately after GoStart we'll continue with our discussion. For now, we'll be talking more on progress on this, the way out and all that. So please stay with us. Enjoy GoStart. When we are back, we'll continue with our discussion. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Just joining us, this is Daybreak Africa on KAFTAN Television, and that was GoStart. GoStart, start business today. What we've been discussing is the issue of subsidy removal on electricity. Now, the question I want to ask is, you talking about the behavior of the discos. Don't you think we Nigerians, we are contributing to the way they are behaving? The reason why I'm asking this is because you see some people, when you see all these people coming out and saying you have to pay this amount and all, this is what you are owing. Based on the fact that they don't have that amount to pay at that point in time, they'll be like, okay, let me give you 2,000 naira. Let me give you 3,000 naira, and when I have the money, I'll go and pay. Don't you think we are part of the reason why discos are behaving in a way that is uncalled for?
Thank you very much. You see, there's sufficient blame to go around. If you truly want to blame ourselves,
okay,
there's sufficient blame to be distributed all around everybody. One, a lot of Nigerians too, maybe because of their poor mentality, do not love to pay for power supply. In fact, a lot of Nigerians, do you know what they call Beko? Some places are doing Beko is they have cut you off the path of life. But when it is the evening, you bring the ladder. You bring the ladder, you bring the wires supplying your house, and you hang it to one of the lines on the pole. You hang it around 10 o'clock in the night. By the time it's 5 a.m. in the morning, you can go and remove it so that nobody would know that you are enjoying power that is not paid for. A lot of people do that. And that thing is that there are persons also have to pay meters who have been caught to have bypassed their meter. That is true. However, we must also blame the distribution company. Many of those staffs you see kind ladder around are casual staffs. So this is where the Ministry of Labor and Productivity comes in. This is where the NLC and the TUC comes in. In the reality, if you truly want to blame anyone, there's sufficient quantity of blame to go around everyone involved in it, the consumers, the suppliers, the middlemen, the workers themselves, the employers of labors, the agents that are employed to even do the employing of the labor, and the labor themselves, the workers themselves, who, because of their poverty, have subjected themselves to hardship. Everyone has sufficient amount of blame to go around. So we cannot blame one person.
Okay.
But the box stop at the table of the company.
Okay. There was a statement that was released, I think 2 days ago or so, by the president of the Senate of NANS. I mean the National Association of Nigerian Students, in person of Usman Adamu. He expressed profound displeasure with the ministers when the ministers repeated that the calls for tariff hike, which he said failed to address the root causes of the crisis of the power sector. Adamu described the ministers' call as insensitive to the plight of Nigerians. What is your take on this? Is it really insensitive, or probably it came in at the wrong time, or it is not supposed to happen at all?
Now, let us tell ourselves the truth. 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, 8 years ago, 9 years ago, 10 years ago, 11 years ago, 12 years ago, 13 years ago, 14 years ago, 15 years ago, 16 years ago, 17 years ago, 18 years ago, 19 years ago, 20 years ago, 21 years ago, 22 years ago, 23 years ago, 24 years ago, 25 years ago, 26 years ago, 27 years ago, 28 years ago, 29 years ago, 30 years ago, 31 years ago, 32 years ago, 33 years ago, 34 years ago, 35 years ago, 36 years ago, 37 years ago, 38 years ago, 39 years ago, 40 years ago, 41 years ago, 42 years ago, 43 years ago, 44 years ago, 45 years ago, 46 years ago, 47 One of the reasons we don't have enough power supply is because we are not generating enough. We are not generating enough power supply. We need around 10,000 to 12,000 megawatts to be power sufficient now in our current state. And as I speak to you, Nigeria is generating less than 4,500 megawatts at its maximum. Many of our power generating equipment are very old. Many of our transmission equipment are also very old, to the point that when power generation jumps up sometimes and it is supplied through the grid collapses.
Yeah,
because of the fact that the equipment, the infrastructure, the power generating infrastructure, a large proportion of it has become very old, and that is why in the last 10 years we have had over 100 grid collapse. Our grid of the DTAH standard collapses at week. So right now we do not just need government to increase that. Also, there's a need for an overhaul. There's a need to invest in power infrastructure. All we have been hearing is plenty grammar, little action. That's not sufficient to fix the problem. We are not generating half of what we need, and that is why our power supply is rationed. That is why in your area you might be having 8 hours of supply. In fact, at a time, this same Mr. Bayo Onanuga, Mr. Adelabu,
yeah.
who is
the Minister of Power.
Who is the Minister of Power? He has introduced the Band A, Band B level. A lot of persons who are on the Band A are complaining because the promise is that they would enjoy 20 hours of power supply. And but I doubt greatly if many of them are enjoying up to 15 hours of power supply. So it's affecting them, and they are paying humongous amounts.
Yes.
So the reality today is that if we actually want to fix our power supply challenges, we must look at the capacity to generate and transmit. We must improve on our capacity to generate and transmit power. Distribution, I just mean a distributor. They have no impact in the supply itself. But we must also take a look at our distribution facilities too. We must put a stop to the situation whereby community, politicians, and rich individuals are the ones providing distribution equipment, but distribution companies that is collecting humongous amount of subsidy from our collective patrimony.
Okay, let me ask this, please. The first thing I want to ask, actually, because I have like 2 questions to just ask you straight, but let me just ask the first one. The federal government are talking about borrowing money to pay some of the debts, that is, using debts to clear debts and all that. Now, how genuine do you see that statement? How genuine do you see this move by the federal government? Do you think it's going to be productive in any way?
Now, you see, borrowing in itself is not bad. Because if you Google the amount of debt that the United States government owes,
they are legends.
And Google the amount of debt that we owe, you will know that their debt is 50 times our own. But when you are borrowing, the reason bank will ask you for collateral when you are borrowing as an individual is to know your capacity to pay back. Currently, to be sincere, our country is credit worthy. However, as Africans, as reasonable human beings, a debtor is a slave to his creditor. So naturally, we shouldn't be borrowing, but except to build infrastructure. If the federal government should borrow, it should borrow to improve our generating, transmitting, and distributing infrastructure. Exactly, our generating and transmitting. In fact, where we used to have problems of big collapse, it's in transmitting.
Yeah, transmitting.
So,
big problem.
We should not be borrowing money to pay off subsidy. You are subsidizing something because you already have money, more than enough money to take care of that aspect. If we are borrowing to pay subsidy, then we are doing the wrong thing. But the reality today is the fact that Nigeria has not borrowed too much. I know that some people would not like it. We are still very much creditworthy. Creditors still want to borrow us money. But we must tread with caution.
Yeah,
because
true.
if you continue to borrow, you find yourself in an abysmal situation that you are not able to pay back, and you are constantly embarrassed by foreign companies. So, and it will also lead to interference in our internal affairs when we continuously borrow. That is why it is better that even if you have to borrow at all, it should be that we are borrowing to improve the our power supply infrastructure and not paying back subsidy, a large proportion of which the people did not even enjoy.
But let me ask this, because I like your statement on the fact that if we want to borrow, we should even borrow to improve our infrastructure. So I want to base it on improving infrastructure, on the power companies, on our transmission and our generation, and a bit on our distribution. Actually, if you were very observant, from 2019, the former president Muhammad Buhari talked about the fact that Nigeria had a deal with Siemens Group, a 5-year deal from 2020 to 2025. This is 2025. I observed that ever since Bayo Adelabu became the Minister of Power, he never for once talked about the Siemens Group deal. And this is a deal that Nigeria as a country already paid in advance for some of the things we will need to complete that deal. And that deal was supposed to give us about 25,000 megawatts. Now, this is one of the things that is scaring many Nigerians, that we use this money for this at this particular time, we are not seeing results. We use this money for this particular time. It's the same thing with the petroleum industry too as well. Those ones, I don't want to talk about them, and the amount of money spent on multiple refineries, and well, little productivity is what is found in that aspect. But looking at the power sector and the place of the Siemens deal still being on the table, now, do you think that we just wasted money on things that we shouldn't have wasted money on, and these things are affecting the genuineness of many of the moves we are making as we speak?
Now, the reality is that the average Nigerian is frustrated. The average Nigerian is suspicious. The average Nigerian has become paranoid. When you mention the fact that the country has gone to take loans to do this and that again. Do we need to improve our infrastructure? Yes. Do we need to improve our power supply infrastructure? Absolutely yes. Do we need to improve our transportation infrastructure and our health infrastructure? Yes. But the reality today is that Nigerians have to be vigilant. That's still the reality. We have no other escape way than to actually go get some loans and improve this infrastructure. If we want to have it on time. But I am saying it again, that it is pointless to begin to borrow to pay subsidy for products that really enjoyed by Nigerians, including the presidency, where they are currently installing solar power. It means that even the presidency is not, despite the being number one position, is not enjoying 24 hours of power supply. So Nigerians are frustrated, yes. But what it is, we have to do what we have to do. And what we have to do currently is that we cannot sit back and continue to watch and continue to use our decaying infrastructure. We have to improve it. We can do better than this for our country to grow, for businesses to grow, for industries to flourish. We need power supply. So the government, if it has to go and borrow, to improve generation and transmission. After all, at the distribution level, Nigerians are taking care of themselves before. So if there is power, we would know how to tap it.
Okay, concerning what you said when it has to do with the presidency and the solar of a thing, a lot of people has been saying, rather than us sitting down, going back and forth when it comes to electricity, why is it that all of us do not just base on solar? What is your take on that?
No, I have mentioned the fact that to solve the Nigerian problem, we must look at using energy mix. That is, in places where we can use solar, we use solar. In places where we can use the hydroelectric power, use hydroelectric power. In those areas where we can use the thermal station, we use thermal station. But let me clarify something as regards that use of solar in the presidency. In the real sense of it is not a bad idea. For example, when the discussion came up, I learned that a certain section of the White House in the US is also powered by solar.
Wow.
But the solar is more or less an alternative that is hardly used at all. But here, we are switching to solar because the amount of energy being supplied to our people is grossly insufficient. But these distribution companies keep on just collecting money for doing nothing. So what we need to do is that in places where solar energy can be used, we will go for solar. In places where we can improve our hydroelectric power, where we have hydroelectric power potential, we will use that. And in places where we have to use a thermal station, gas turbine, we use our gas turbine to generate power supply. That is the reality today. That's the reality today. But let me also clarify something. In this year's budget, the budget to do to put in place solar power is not for the presidential villa alone. A lot of our universities are around too, key universities, key hospitals that have better teaching hospitals like the DTAH in the back that has been languishing in the lack of power. There's also a budget to actually give them solar power. That's the part of the story that many Nigerians do not know. But the reality today is that our power generation is abysmally low, and we need to do something about it.
What solution will you prefer to Nigerians?
Pending the time that infrastructure will improve.
Yes, let's not forget the fact that it is not all Nigerians that have the capacity to purchase a solar system.
Those who have the capacity to generate for their own generate that like they are doing before. Those who do not have the capacity would have to be patient and continue to agitate to ensure that the needful is done. That's the only thing that can be done. There's no other way around it.
There's no other way. All right. As we round off on this program today, you said something before, and I just want to just make a bit of clarity on it, because when you made the statement, I think to a very large extent I asked myself two questions: that do you think Nigerians can actually do this? You said even while the debt is being collected to do one or two things, that is if it's going to go for infrastructure. Nigerians should be vigilant enough to ask questions when necessary and ensure that many of these people don't just pocket this money and all that. But do you think Nigerians have the confidence to do this? Do you think we have the mind? Looking at the fact that activism in the country these days is coming with a lot of consequences. We also saw what is happening to people like the very dark man and the likes as we speak. Now, do you think that is kind of possible?
Yeah, you see, the reality is that the weakness of the average Nigerian is short attention span. We tend to want things done quickly, and when it's not done quickly, we move to the next thing. That is one. Number two is that the weakness of the average young Nigerian today is the hero mentality. I want to do it alone. I want to be seen alone. I want my name to be mentioned as the one that has done it alone. I want to be the hero. No, things are not done that way. Agitation sometimes has to be long term. You must prepare to fight for a long time, and you must prepare to collaborate with others, to organize and collaborate with others. That's the best way it is done. Anyone who is working alone, sometimes we get eaten up alone. That's the reality today. That is why I love that song. I don't know one of the poppers that sang it. Organized. Every other day I organize.
That's probably a Shakira.
And every time that I have the opportunity to speak to our people, I would say, you organize. The reason the agitation of the past appears to be better than now, appears to have achieved more than now, is the fact that there are no lone rangers. people come together, organize together, and demand their right together, our leaders are scared of organized Nigerians. So they are happy when you are doing it alone, like the gentleman you mentioned. They are happy when only your name is mentioned. They know that they only have one person to take care of. So it is easy to cut off your supply. But if there are 200 persons scattered around the country, demanding for the same thing, despite the fact that there's a known leader, but they know that the 199 that is left behind, even if the leader is incarcerated, are capable of speaking and demanding for the same thing. Look at the way we did the NSAS protest. The NSAS protest failed because 2 days into this thing, some persons were asking for NSAS, some were asking for NBuari, some were asking for the release of Nnamdi Kanu.
No unity. By
the time it is 1 week, everybody was confused about the original purpose
of the whole protest.
These are the challenges. So there are persons who have received knowledge in organizing protests. They know what to do. Look at what the young persons did in 2019 when we did Not Too Young to Rule. When it was time for all the young people to be coming out to contest, to pick one candidate, they failed. They all fought and scattered the meeting. This is why it appears that our agitation is not bearing fruit. People want to fight a long-term war alone. You get weary. Then people whom you are fighting for are people with short attention span. People who are looking for sudden miracles and sudden heroes. These are our weaknesses which we must fit, and we must organize properly to demand for a change in a particular aspect of our life. That's the way it should be done.
Thanks so much, Alaba, for being a part of this segment.
Thank you.
Really appreciate
it's a pleasure
this,
to have you in the studio today.
The discussion has been very beautiful, actually. We really appreciate it.
And I think everybody has learned one or two things.
Learned a whole lot of things.
God bless you.
God bless you too as well. Thanks so much. Yes, that's as well all we can take for today on Daybreak Africa, talking about our discussion. But then we'll still go to give you sports for those of us who actually are very great lovers of sport, like myself, not
yourself. Yes, thank you.
But then after sports, we just come back on Daybreak Africa and we say our goodbyes actually. So please stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back from sports. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Definitely that Shari won't enjoy sports as much as I did. So
please don't mention my name because it's not my thing, please.
But then I think the discussion for today was very productive. Actually, I wish he was in the studio with us just discussing. But
sincerely, but I think part of the thing I could still remember is him talking about the fact that the federal government should not remove subsidy and at the same time should improve infrastructure when it comes to electricity. We understand the fact that we are not yet developed, we are still developing, but then we can do better. So the infrastructure, and is, let me say, 80% of the blame, he placed it on government, based on the fact that government are not doing what they, or let me say, they are not doing up to what they are supposed to do. And also, he put it out to the discos. You people, a whole lot of people are coming for you with your heart, your actions and all. You know, it is so funny when they come to your house and they start acting like a demigod. I'll be like, okay, if you don't do this, we'll do this and that. And it is so absurd, and it is heartbreaking that you didn't use light for certain months. Your light has been disconnected. Imagine the example he gave. For 4 to 5 months, their light was disconnected, and at the end of the day, when it was reconnected, they still. Like, what is going on?
Sometimes some things just happen, and you just ask yourself multiple questions at the same time about it. But then, like I said, I told someone you can't explain some things within the country to, even while you're explaining to the person. You yourself don't understand because you get confused at the end of the day.
You confuse yourself.
Because I remember even this issue of the prepaid meter, there was a time the federal government, through the Minister of Power then, in the person of Babatunde Raji Fashola, gave instructions to these discos, please give prepaid meters out there. Federal government even paid for some so that to be free to the people and all that. I don't know, like he said, it's like just the tools you are supposed to use for me, I'm still paying you for the tools. I don't get an event planner and still pay the event planner for the 2.
You know, something happened. I remember vividly when I was still in school as an undergraduate. The hostel I was staying, based on the fact that the school I went to, we all are staying off campus. So the hostel I was staying, even though it was our landlady who paid for the prepaid meter, you know how students can be.
Yeah,
something
definitely
happened, one thing led to another. At the end of the day, the wire connected to the prepaid meter was disconnected by the student, and before you knew it, we just saw policemen and was like, we are going to arrest everybody. What did we do? We destroyed
the prepaid meter,
government's property. And in my mind, I'm like, well, I don't understand government's property. It is not as if it is government that brought this thing to us for free. It was our house owner who paid for it. Imagine we being arrested
for something
we paid for. At the end of the day, you are claiming it is the government's property. It shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be actually, but then I think Nigerians, like he said, constructively we can come together collectively to speak against this.
We need to have one
It's
voice.
getting out of hand, and we need to voice this out of the government. Like he said, I think we need to work on the structural problem first before we begin to talk about tariff hikes and all that. I think the government needs to even pay more attention to this than anything, because I think Bayo Adelabu, if I'm to comment on him as the Minister of Power so far, I think he has not been able to address much of the structural part. He just talks about the financial part of the whole thing, which is very, very sad. But then there are more things to discuss on Daybreak Africa. Tomorrow we'll still be bringing more discussions to you. But till then, my name still remains Ikhonede Joshua Odeji.
And hi, I'm Afolashayo Hamzat. Bye for
guys.
now.